election night here in the borderland. The polls are closed, and we are your local election headquarters. I'm Don Guevara.
And I'm Farron Franzek. Several key seats are up for grabs tonight, including El Paso mayor and some city council spots. We have team coverage for you tonight. News Channel 9's Alejandra Briones is live in downtown El Paso at Dee Margo's watch party, and Estefania Seifert, she is at David Salcedo's party. First, those first sets of numbers are already starting to come in.
Yeah, in the race for El Paso mayor, 8 candidates vying for the seat left vacant by Oscar Leeser, who did not seek re-election. Those 8 candidates are Dee Margo, Emma Acosta, David Salcedo, Jaime Perez, Charlie Stapler, Jorge Artelejo, and then Alicia Morales, and then Willie Cager. Right now, in the race for mayor, Dee Margo is leading, according to these results that we're just getting in right now from the elections office. Let me scroll down to those numbers, and we can tell you that he is leading by about 47% of the vote to David Salcedo's 23%. Salcedo says that he has lived in El Paso, in and out of El Paso most of his life.
And he knows exactly, he says he knows what the city is capable of. He believes that he can get El Paso to be a competitive and an appealing city. And that's where we're going to begin our team coverage with News Channel 9's Estefania Seifert. She is live from his watch party in central El Paso with more. Steph.
Right, well, the watch party is at the Delight restaurant here in central El Paso. We're having a couple people walking in to the watch party. But going back to what you were saying, Salcedo says he lives many of the struggles any typical El Pasoan lives, and he plans to address it, which is why he thinks he's the ideal candidate.
El Pasoans are tired of the select few running the city, and I'm the anti-establishment candidate.
Mayoral hopeful David Salcedo prides himself on not being a politician, and he says that's not his only advantage.
I think being bilingual, I think being bicultural is an absolute necessity for the mayor of El Paso. Otherwise, how are you inclusive?
Graduating from Cathedral High and Notre Dame, Salcedo has a business background stemming from his 100-year-old family business. He says he's data-driven.
One of the largest major cities in the United States with the highest level of bond indebtedness. You know, we boast one of the lowest median incomes in the country for a major city.
So when it comes to allocating funds, like for public safety, he says it's high priority.
Here in El Paso, your pizza shows up faster than the police, and it's not their fault.
And as for his stance on the controversial arena, he says he's against its downtown location.
Tourism is a $6 billion industry in the state of Texas. We only take 2% of it because we don't champion our heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, we are from the world famous West Texas town of El Paso.
Hoping to bring a youthful change to the city.
When I win, I will be the youngest Hispanic mayor in the country, and we will bring awareness to our community once and for all.
Now, according to the numbers that are starting to come in, Salcedo is down 23 to Margo. We'll be having a live interview with Salcedo in a couple of minutes. Reporting from Central El Paso from David Salcedo's watch party, Estefania Seifert, News Channel 9.
And again, we were talking about those numbers just coming in right now. Again, we have Dee Margo is at 47% to David Salcedo's 23%. Also running, like we said, Mayor Dee Margo. Margo is a local businessman with experience as a state representative.
News Channel 9's Alejandra Briones is live from his watch party tonight. It's at the ballpark. Alejandra, what's the level of excitement for Dee Margo, who leads this race right now as these first numbers are just coming in?
Yeah, I spoke with Margo's campaign like 5 minutes before those first results came out. They were telling me that they were feeling anxious, but they were feeling optimistic. And when those results came out, cheers in this the West Star Bank suite here at the ballpark. Now, here's a quick look at Margo as a candidate.
I'm running because I care about this community. Simple as that. I've been here 40 years. It gave me roots.
A longtime El Paso businessman, Dee Margo is just one of 6 other candidates hoping to be El Paso's new mayor. Margo in 2010 was elected to the Texas House of Representatives. He also served on EPISD Board of Managers.
I think I've shown my commitment to this community. I just care about it.
Taxes, roads, public safety, and jobs are the 4 main issues Margo says the city faces. He believes he's the only candidate who has experience in working in all of these areas. Margo also saying a mayor can be an ambassador for jobs.
Economic viability of El Paso, just like any other community, is going to be solely predicated on the education of our workforce.
The campaign trail hasn't been all smooth sailing. Margo making some comments that raised eyebrows on social media.
One, when I would go down to Chihuahuita in their neighborhood association, they actually call it their freedom fence.
That was his response to a question about Trump's proposed border wall. Margo later explained he got the term freedom fence from the people in Chihuahuita.
There was no intent on my part to provide any offense for anyone.
Now, again, Margot is in the lead in this mayoral race as those first numbers come out from the polls. We're going to go talk to him right now so that you'll be hearing from him as he sees these results start to come in and as he is in the lead. Reporting live from downtown El Paso, Alejandra Briones, News Channel 9.
Allie, thank you. Early voting ended on Tuesday, and not a lot of people really cast their ballots. According to the El Paso County Elections Office, more than 17,700 people voted. That's out of more than 418,000 registered voters. Now, the elections administrator says the low numbers may be due to a lack of enthusiasm for the candidates this time around.
We haven't seen a lot of excitement about the candidates. I have a feeling that we'll see a little bit higher if it goes to a runoff, because at that point the choices will be cut.
So should any of the races go into a runoff? Well, that would be held on June 10th, and it would cost the city about $240,000.
And with that, we welcome our political analyst. Tonight, we're joined by Dr. Richard Pineda, who's the director of the Sam Donaldson Center for Communication Studies at UTEP, Ileana Olguin, the chair of the El Paso Democratic Party, and El Paso political blogger Jaime Abetia. Thank you all for being here. The numbers out. Let's talk about the race for mayor right now. Dee Margo in a big lead over David Salcedo and over Emma Acosta. We'll start with you, Mr. Pineda.
Well, so the key for tonight is to see if Mr. Margo can cross the 50.1 mark. So I think that his campaign is probably excited about this initial result. 44 points coming in from early voting is good. It'll be interesting to see what happens today. I mean, the reports all over town have been that the voter turnout was not super high, which means that there is still a good chance that this race may go into a runoff. I think when we see the first round of updates from today, we'll have a better sense if that number is going to change. Although, if you're the Margo campaign right now, you're sitting very comfortable in terms of going into a runoff, given the gap between them and the next runner.
And you're talking about sitting comfortable. Jaime, you are known for saying what's on your mind. If you haven't read his blog, we know that he says what's on his mind. A couple times with Dee Margo, you were shaking your head. What is your opinion of Mr. Margo right now?
Well, I think given the weak field, and I think that turnout is low because El Paso is kind of across the board. Look at this, is probably the weakest field ever to run for school board, for that matter. I mean, these are not strong candidates from top to bottom. But I think Dee was really hurt by making a comment that many of us found was offensive.
He wasn't that hurt. He's in the lead right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with a field this weak, I mean, he could have been over 50% and said goodnight to everybody. The fact that he's under 50% may be because of that. But I also, as I look at the numbers, it kind of would be remiss if I didn't remark on how Emma Acosta has underperformed. In any other circumstance, a 2+ term sitting member of council, the only Hispanic female in a race where the two major opponents were Republicans, she should have been walking away with it.
And I want to talk to you in a little bit about the ethics of all that. I want to turn, though, to Ileana. This is a Democratic town. We've got a Republican right now, or a Republican, former state Republican rep, leading this race in a town of Democrats. What do you make of that?
Well, I think to me it underscores the importance of really holding Dee Margo's feet to the fire if he ends up being our next elected mayor. Unfortunately, I think turnout really hurt our Democratic candidates. We had several in the race, but I think people are still feeling very disillusioned, very disenchanted from the results of the November election. So that's something that we have to do as a community, as a party, get people excited again, get them involved, and make them realize how important it is to come out and vote. But certainly if Dee Margo is our next mayor, as you said, he's a Republican, we're going to have to hold his feet to the fire, specifically for the types of comments that Jaime noted that he made, but also the agreement that he has with a lot of Trump's policies, Abbott's policies. We're going to have to make sure that he represents us as El Pasoans.
The race for mayor, as are all the city reps races, are nonpartisan, but was there a push on the part of the Democratic Party for these Democratic candidates?
Sure. I mean, we wanted the community to be aware and to know as much about all of the candidates as they could. So we really did try to spread the word about who were Republicans, who were Democrats, and make sure that people were informed. We didn't support any particular candidate, but we wanted voters to have as much information as they could.
One of the things is when I actually interviewed Cesar Blanco last week, I asked him for if he was going to endorse, State Rep Cesar Blanco, if he was going to endorse a mayoral candidate, with Emma Acosta being the only Democrat right now on the ticket. And he said, no, I'm waiting for a Democrat to come up, to rise up and take over that seat. Is there anybody is as far as the Democratic Party concerns here in El Paso that you're looking at, as far as, you know, we have the District 8 seat that's going to remain open tonight. Anyone that you guys are looking at as far as bringing forward now?
Well, we have a lot of really great Democratic elected office holders and a lot of great Democratic candidates. The majority of the candidates in these races and all of the races really were Democrats. So El Paso, you noted correctly, is 70% Democratic, and thankfully we're still going to have a majority of our elected officials on City Council be Democrats. And the party's here to support all great Democrats who want to run to office and represent our community.
Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually go to the race for District 2 city rep now, which is actually going to cover incumbent Jim Tolbert really quick, facing off against Dolores Garcia Baca, Judd Burgess, Alexander Burnside, Alessandra Anello, and Raul Scoop Valdez.
I'm hearing, do we have Dee Margo right now, an interview with him? All right, let's go to Alejandra Briones, who has Dee Margo. He's leading the field in this mayor's race. Alejandra.
Yeah, this is a big race to be the new mayor of El Paso, and right now the early results are showing Dee Margo at the lead, and he joins us now. So, Dee Margo, I saw you guys cheering when those first results came out. How are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm very pleased that we're in the lead. I just wish it would have been over 50%. It would have been nicer, but we'll see how it turns out today in today's vote.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your campaign. Some of the issues that were brought up along the campaign trail were that El Pasoans could not relate to you. We're here at your watch party, which is at the West Bank Club here at the Chihuahuas game. Do you feel that you do relate to an average El Pasoan voter?
Well, frankly, that's never been an issue as far as the people that talk to me. Absolutely not. I mean, I built a business here from scratch, basically, and I took it over when I was 29. I served as a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army, so I was advocating on behalf of Fort Bliss for many years, including during the BRAC process. When I served in the state legislature, I don't think anybody questioned my efforts there, and frankly, there was never ever any issue related to that when I was doing the EPISD Board of Managers. There was never an issue on whether or not I could relate, and there was never an issue of partisanship.
So right now you are in the lead. We still are waiting for the rest of the results to come in. How confident are you that you will go over that 50% mark so that this does not go into a runoff election?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I'm very optimistic. I don't know that I would say how confident I am, because we had 8. We're actually doing better than people would have thought we would do, given the fact that we had 8 candidates. So I'm optimistic. Let's put it that way. I think we've run a good campaign. We certainly didn't go negative, which is unfortunately seems to be the way to go these days in normal political campaigns. And we're talking about the issues and what needs to be done to take this community forward.
Now, if you are elected mayor, will you also be donating your salary like Mayor Oscar Leeser does?
Probably. I do more than that now, so it's going to change, and so yeah, probably. Yeah, but I'm going to find a cause that's probably related specifically to education, because I already do Operation Noel with Coats, so we'll figure out what we do.
All right, thank you very much, Dee Margo. We'll check in with you again in a little while, okay? All right, thank you. Okay, guys, so again, Dee Margo is leading the mayoral race. He's saying that he feels optimistic that he can get over that 50% mark so that this does not go into a runoff election. We'll continue monitoring these results as they can slowly continue coming in, and we'll check in with Dee Margo again a little while later. Reporting live in downtown El Paso, Alejandra Briones, News Channel 9.
All right, Alejandra, thank you. And let's just review the numbers real quick. Right now, Dee Margo at 47%, David Salcedo at 23%. Those are the top 2.
So as far as just hearing from Dee Margo, Jaime, your reaction?
I think he is rightfully confident. If I were sitting in that position running his campaign with that type of lead, I'd be as confident as he is right now. He's going into a runoff, presumably, unless something really drastic changes, which is probably not going to happen. He'll be in a runoff with David Salcedo, and he's probably going to eat his lunch.
And Richard, as far as a lot of people talking about how they are going, they went out to vote for a city council rep, but they necessarily didn't vote for mayor. We have an undervote here. So it's one of those things that, yes, he's at 47%, but is he really going to get a lot of the votes that he's presuming that he's getting
Sure.
right now.
Well, so a couple of things. For viewers, an undervote happens when somebody actually walks into the voting booth, makes a decision on any of the candidates in a field, but opts not to vote for a particular candidate. So in the mayor's race, it looks like there's already about 300 people that have undervoted. That suggests that those people went into the voting booth, had some objection to that slate of candidates, and opted not to vote for any one of them. The reason that that's a point of concern for a campaign like Margot's and like Salcedo's is that if you end up in a runoff, you're going to want every single vote. I mean, we know that voting numbers are low already, so that means if you're putting 300 or 400 votes on the table that you're not touching, those are votes that you need to try to reel in as quickly as possible. So for both of those campaigns, assuming that Mr. Margot doesn't cross that 50.1 tonight, it means they're going to have to figure out how to engage those folks that did show up, which means that they feel the civic duty to vote, but then didn't actually pull for one of those candidates. So I think those numbers, anytime you're at a proportion this small of overall voters, I think every vote counts, and every vote is significant in this case.
You know, to add on to that, I would think it's also significant the fact that the West Side carried more of the votes in this election, but they don't have anybody on the ballot. So I wonder what that says about the mayoral candidates. And I wrote recently that the bad news about this weak field of candidates is somebody's got to win. And that's the unfortunate thing for the voter in El Paso. And I think the high undervote is going to be a really strong statement, particularly for Margot if he ends up winning, because the West Side was the one that have voted in such strong numbers. And if so many of them went and undervoted, you know, that's going to be a bit of a statement, because they're basically going in to vote for municipal judges, and that's basically it.
Well, we will keep an eye on these numbers. Again, we will be refreshing our pages here. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go to the race for District 2 now, again, which covers Central El Paso incumbent Jim Tolbert. He's going to be facing off against Dolores Garcia Baca, Judd Burgess, Alexander Burnside, Alessandro Anello, and Raul Scoop Valdez.
Let's go ahead and get those numbers right now. Jim Tolbert is behind Alexandra Anello. She's 35% of the vote to Jim Tolbert's 30%. We have Patrick Hayes, who is with Jim Tolbert. Patrick, what are you hearing about this, the incumbent right now not being in the lead as these first numbers are coming in?
Hey, Don, I'm here outside in central El Paso. We're getting the numbers slowly coming in, but earlier today I spoke to 3 of the candidates, including 2 challengers for Jim Tolbert's seat. Judd Burgess and Alexandra Anello have criticized current city council member Jim Tolbert for his involvement in a meeting which allegedly violated the state's Open Meetings Act. As News Channel 9 previously reported, those allegations are currently under investigation by the Texas Rangers. However, during our candidate forum on Facebook Live, Tolbert said he didn't do anything wrong.
It's an accusation that I broke the law. Frankly, nobody broke the law on that day. I know that, and of course people like my opponents, who are the judge, jury, and executioners, would tell you otherwise.
Still, his challengers say it's time for a change.
I really believe that I am the candidate with the most experience with budgets and communication, and I think communication is what's really lacking. You know, as I've said many times, our city government has a we know best attitude, and it's time to change that.
I've been here, first of all, for 47 years, so I know this area, and I've been in El Paso for 51 years. I've raised my kids here through public schools. I understand the city, and El Paso is such a unique city. There's really no other city in America like El Paso.
Meanwhile, Tolbert says you should vote for him because he has more experience in public service than his challengers.
Well, for one thing, I've been very involved in civic activities for over 40 years. I've been on boards and commissions. I've been this past year, I've served as city council representative.
Now again, early numbers have just come in, and Alexandra Anello is leading Tolbert by about 60 votes, about 5% of the early votes. We'll have more on that tonight at 8 here on Facebook Live. Reporting in Central El Paso, Patrick Hayes, News Channel 9.
All right, Patrick, thank you. Now to the race for District 7, which covers most of East El Paso and the Lower Valley. Incumbent Lily Limon facing off against Henry Rivera. It is not looking good for incumbent Lily Limon. Let's take a look at the numbers right now. These early numbers coming in show Lily Limon trails Henry Rivera. He's got about 1,440 votes to her 936, and according to the website here, he is at 60% of the vote to her 39%. So it's going to take a lot for her to come back.
Now, one of the things that was holding over Lily Limon's head was this investigation by the Texas Rangers. Richard, when there's something like that going on with a candidate, clearly, in this case, it looks like it might have had an effect, but do you think that that was maybe most of the effect of her loss tonight?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, I think that the investigation certainly is a cloud over Representative Limon's head. But the other issue I think that's affected her, at least in her performance in that particular district, has been some of the issues that have happened in council. You'll recall several months ago the snipping between her and now former Representative Nyland, some positions that she's taken that have created tension with her colleagues on the council. So I think that voters oftentimes will look to the most recent issue. So in that case, the Rangers investigation doesn't help. But I think once you start to add those things up, it becomes much more substantial. We were talking about the undervote earlier. In that race, the undervote is at 148 votes, which means that, again, you had people that walked into the booth and opted not to vote for either candidate. If you're Lily Limon tonight, that 148 votes hurts you tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
we're going to see. Actually, I wanted to bring that back to Jaime because I said that I wanted to talk about this whole ethics investigation. We've been covering it for several months here at News Channel 9. Jaime, what is your take on how much this is going to affect people like Lily Limon and other people who are incumbents who may not necessarily be a part of this investigation but still are kind of tied to this bigger picture of whether or not they did or did anything wrong or right?
Right. I would say the numbers already kind of indicate that they are absolutely having an impact of it. Representative Tolbert is also down, and they all tried to put out a narrative that, hey, this is no big deal, there's nothing to see here, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But the reality is the electorate came out, and you're seeing an impact of it. I will also say, and this is a little bit kind of inside baseball, but this is also the revenge of Forma Group. They lost this seat 4 years ago when Representative Lily won, and their candidate lost by just a small amount of votes. And there was a mail problem. They sent out mail, their GOTV mail, after Election Day. So they missed a big push. This time they executed their GOTV mail, landed right when it was supposed to, and it was a strong negative piece. And so you're seeing the echo of that. And that strong negative piece, mail piece, centered on the investigation.
And you actually wrote this week as well about the robocall, and we actually covered this as well, that was talking about Henry Rivera, his wife's optic disability. They were thinking that it was tied to Lily Limon and David Saucedo. Could with coverage like that and their names being tied to it, do you think that this possibly could have an effect?
I think the robocall had little to no effect. I think you would have to know who some of these players are in a really big way. And frankly, not enough people in the Valley know who Dora Oaxaca is unless you've, run into her in government. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it really played a big factor. The bigger factor was the steady drip of hearing about the investigation for the last several months.
All right, we're going to go back to the race for mayor. Estefania Saverit has David Salcedo live. Estefania, he is trailing DeMargo by quite a bit. What's he saying about these first numbers coming in right now?
Yeah, well, Don and Farron, I saw them as they were going over the first wave of early voting numbers. David, what are your thoughts seeing the first wave of those numbers?
We feel real strong. We did as we expected. I'd like to congratulate Dee, but I'm looking forward to the runoff. I can't wait.
How do you feel about your campaign, about what you've done with your campaign? Is there anything you would have done differently?
We did as we expected. We walked, we talked to the people, we adjusted our platform to the people, and this is the people's campaign. And so we feel very strong and very excited, and I can't wait for the runoff.
And on that, people's campaign, what was one of the key issues that you were addressing in your campaign?
Public safety and infrastructure and the wasteful spending of the city. People are tired of it, and that's what we addressed, and that's why we beat the incumbent.
And your top priority if you are to be elected as mayor?
Public safety, infrastructure, and economic development, without a doubt.
All right, well, we're going to be hearing more from David Saucedo throughout the night, but I'm going to send things back to you all at the studio.
Let's move on now to District 4. District 4 covers Northeast El Paso. You may remember that District 4 Rep. Carl Robinson has served 2 terms as the Northeast Rep, meaning he is no longer eligible to run.
Yeah, and the candidates vying for his seat are Shane Haggerty, Sam Morgan, Jose Plasencia, and Diana Ramos. Some of the hot-button issues for the district include Cohen Stadium and veterans issues because of the district's closeness to Fort Bliss.
We are keeping an eye on the District 4 race. News Channel 9's Course Nylander is at the Shane Haggerty watch party. Course, what's happening there?
Hi, Don. Well, early voting results show that Mr. Haggerty is pulling in about second place at this point, but I can tell you that's not deterring anyone here. We got several members of his family, friends, co-workers. Everyone's out here. As you can see, Very excited here today. They're hoping for, at the very least, a runoff in this election. A lot of people very excited out here. We're in the Northeast. Let's introduce you first. We're going to talk to Shane in a moment, but let's introduce you to the rest of the candidates.
Four candidates seeking your vote to serve the Northeast District 4. Shane Haggerty.
Well, I'm the current president and the Parkland representative for the Isleta Independent School District.
Sam Morgan.
My background is military.
And teacher Jose Placencia.
I lived in El Paso about 31 years of my life.
And Diana Ramos, who spent 3 years working in Congressman Beto O'Rourke's office. One of the main issues at hand, the controversial arena project in Cohen Stadium.
People saying we should move the arena to Cohen Stadium. And my answer was, as soon as we try to do that, it's going to get called into litigation. There's going to be so many lawsuits that are going to be filed, it's not going to happen.
I believe that the city has the resources and the talent within our city government to take a good hard look at Cohen Stadium and see how it could be repurposed for whatever purposes.
I would like to bring the arena up here to Northeast and Cohen Stadium where it is. I think we have a lot of space.
And we need to make sure that we have an honest conversation about the possibilities of working on Cohen Stadium on its own.
Another big concern, crime.
I do believe that we do have an issue with public safety when it comes to the amount of police officers that we have to respond.
So I know for a fact that the Northeast is not the most crime-ridden, the most dangerous side of town to be on.
And ethics, following accusations of a rolling quorum with current members of council.
If there are violations of Open Meetings Acts, you report them. It's as simple as that.
There is no excuse for what happened. The way it was described, they did it.
And as promised, Shane Haggerty himself here right now. So you've looked at the early voting results.
Yes, sir.
How are you feeling, and how has the campaign been?
Feeling excited. As you can see, I've got a fantastic support staff here. They've been absolutely amazing. The early vote is in. It's looking pretty close. It's only about 200 votes that's separating the two of us, and so it looks like there's probably going to be a runoff, which is fantastic. It means that we just need to get out there. We need to work harder, and we need to earn it.
So at this point, you're still remaining very optimistic.
Absolutely, yes, sir. We're sitting second place right now, but I don't think that's where we're going to end up.
And closing up, what's your future on YSD if this doesn't go your way?
Oh, with as far as the Isleta School District, today it'll be my last day. We already have someone who's coming in who's going to take over. He's from the Pebble Hills area, and he'll be taking over as the Parkland area representative.
Thank you, sir. Got a very nice crowd out here supporting you. Definitely got a lot of people in your corner. We're live in Northeast El Paso. Course Islander, back to you in the studio.
All right, so we're going to bring this question to our political analysts now. Haggerty comes from a long line of politicians in his family. Do you think that name recognition played a piece here?
Well, I think it did and it didn't. I mean, the surprising thing is that Shane is not leading coming out of the general. In this particular race, I mean, Sam Morgan had run before, so not only his name but sort of his face had been big in the district. But I think it's a little bit surprising. I mean, Jaime might disagree with me on this, but in some ways that legacy should help a tremendous amount. Where really, I mean, that family has been in almost every municipal office in the area.
Not just municipal, but at almost every level of government. Someone in the Northeast has been represented by Haggerty for the last 30 years. But I would say that I'm surprised Morgan didn't come out further ahead. I think Morgan underperformed. I mean, here's a guy who was just a few votes away from pulling it off last time, to the point where he even asked for a recount against Carl Robinson. And there's only a few hundred votes that separate him and Haggerty. I think the advantage is going to go to Haggerty, particularly given the fact that Haggerty's a retired fireman. I would expect to see the firefighters union to come in pretty big in the runoff, and I'll bet you that's going to end up being the deciding factor.
Ileana, any surprises in the closing moments we have?
You know, I think there's a lot of surprises. I think the District 7 race was a big surprise. You know, the mayoral race, unfortunately, I think that's what a lot of us expected to happen. But again, it just underscores the need to get out and vote and to get people out to vote. It's so important.
So let's just recap sort of the leaders right now at this point. DeMargo leading for mayor. In District 2, it's Anella over Tolbert. There's a surprise there. District 3, it's Hernandez. District 4, it's Morgan. And District 7, it's Rivera over the incumbent Limon. A big surprise there. Folks, we're going to have much more coverage at the top of every hour. And then, of course, you can join us live on News Channel 9 at 9 o'clock. And then we're back on Facebook Live at 10 o'clock.
And we want to give special thanks to our political analysts here, Ileana Holguin, Dr. Richard Pineda, and Jaime Abetia. We will be back again at 8 o'clock. We'll see you then.